Good evening. I'm here tonight to share with you whom I consider to be my hero. When I'm asked this question, the first person that comes to mind obviously would be Jesus because he saves me every day. So he's truly my hero. But when I'm also asked, well, who in this world else do you consider to be your hero? Right away I start going through my mind of historical figures, people who've really made a difference in this world. And although there are many, when I really think about who's been my personal hero here in this world, I would have to say that's my mom. My mom, her name's Yvonne. And just to give you a little background about my mom, she was born in 1949 here in California, Orange County, California, although she was raised in Los Angeles. Growing up, she was like a hippie in the 70s, and actually in the 60s she was what was known as beatnik. So she's often reciting poetry or beating on bongos, wearing the dark heavy eyeliner, just to give you a little glimpse as to of what she would look like back in the 60s. She met my dad 50 years ago. They actually just celebrated their 50-year wedding anniversary. So she was 18 years old. She was living in a suburb of East Los Angeles called City Terrace when she got a job at a shoe store in downtown LA. She was working one day, and my dad just happened to be riding on a bus through the city, and he looked out his window and into the store window of the shoe shop and saw my mom, and he just was floored with her beauty, and he just got off on the next stop and walked in there to meet her. Literally weeks later, my mom was throwing her suitcase out of her second floor bedroom window, and she actually eloped to Las Vegas with my father. So that's something my grandparents never quite got over. But she did it, and soon they had my sister, Michelle. And one day she took my sister, Michelle, when she was a small baby, to the park. And she was approached by some hippies there who were calling themselves part of the Jesus movement. And they started witnessing to my mom, and my mom immediately she got saved right there on the spot. And she just went home so excited to share the Lord with my dad, who unfortunately was not so thrilled with the whole idea. But soon, well, not soon, I'd say maybe a few months it took for my dad to finally catch on to the gospel, and by then the God of my mother became the God of my father, and they started to raise my sister to know the Lord and share the gospel with my sister. They even joined a group of other followers of Christ, and they ended up moving to Europe with my sister in tow. My mom found herself living in England. A girl from East LA, just living in England, raising my sister there, following the Lord. By the time they came back, they decided to come back to Los Angeles, and then they had me in the 70s, 1975. And my mom was the first Christian in her huge family. There was 8 of them in her family, and she was the first born-again Christian. The rest of the family thought she was crazy, but now at this point in our lives, half the family is all born-again Christians. So I just really credit my mom with sharing the gospel, not being afraid, not feeling intimidated, and just being excited about her salvation. So my mom was a great mom. She really she took us to church at least twice a week. While my mom and dad, we'd be in church twice a week. She started working at Cal State LA, where she spent 30 years working at Cal State LA. Always a hard worker. My dad was always self-employed, so it was feast or famine with him. So we really counted on my mom's her consistent support, her benefits. She really contributed to the household. She was a great cook. She was a fun mom, very affectionate with us. She was the kind of mom who would get down on the floor, play Barbies with me. She used to throw these parties, New Year's, for all the neighborhood kids and I. She would make all these little appetizers, and she would buy us party hats and noisemakers. She used to give me slumber parties, swimming parties in the backyard. All my friends loved coming to my house. My mom was a lot of fun. And even now to this day, she she's older. She's a grandmother. She's got grandchildren. She still gets on the floor and plays with my kids. And my kids love when my mom watches them because they know they're in for a treat. They're in for a good time. Another thing that I really admire about my mom, this is truly why she is my hero. Her love for the Lord it's just a beautiful thing to see. Not only has she raised us to know the Lord, and she just goes up to random strangers and asks them how they're doing, and soon enough, she's witnessing to them. She's got a very strong faith, and she's infamous for what I call her Jesus luncheons, where she invites someone to lunch, random people. It could be someone that she hasn't seen in a long time, an old, school friend that she hasn't seen in 20, 30 years. It could be a relative who's fallen ill. It could be the stranger who's sitting in the back of the church, just kind of keeping to themselves. It could be a neighbor. She invites them to lunch and she shares the Lord with them and she witnesses to them. And she just wants the people who may feel forgotten or may feel down and out to know that they're not forgotten and that there's someone bigger who just loves them. And I just admire that so much about my mom. And just for the sake of time, that's just a snapshot about who my mom is. There's so much more I can say. I haven't even touched upon the fact that she's just got this real demented sense of humor that kept our family laughing for years. Or, she's got all kinds of little quirks about her that crack us up. She's so hardworking. Even though she's retired now, she's still working. She's always had these side jobs. Even when she was working at Cal State LA for 30 years, she sold Tupperware or Avon. She's just who I hope to be, and I hope that I can have the same effect on my children as my mother had on me, but literally and figuratively, big shoes to fill. Like, did I tell you my mom wears a size 10 in shoe? So she really does have big shoes to fill. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I really hope that you all have someone close to you that you really view as your hero. Yes, there are so many heroes in this world that we can talk about, but when it's someone that's involved in your personal life, it just makes it that much more special. Thank you and God bless.